Good evening, everyone. Thursday, January 23rd, it's 5:30 p.m. And this is the Sacramento. Wait a minute. Yeah, I know this is the Finance Committee, but I'm reading off this. Oh, okay, the Finance and Audit Committee. This is a regular meeting agenda. Like to call this meeting to order. Roll call, please, board.
Yes. Director Weber.
Present.
Director Stark.
Present.
Director Clark.
Present.
Thank you. Director Jones let us know she'd be absent this evening, and we have Director Weber here as the alternate. Thank you for coming.
Next, we have a public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within the committee scope, including items on or not on the agenda.
I have no speaker cards.
Okay.
And we're checking online. And right now we have no attendees, so no public comments for
Next
this
slide.
meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Clerk. The next item is the consent items. Do we have any questions? We need a motion?
I'll make the motion, please.
Second. Call the roll, please.
Director Weber.
Aye.
Director Stark.
Aye.
Director Clark.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right. So then we'll move right on to the presentation item, bi-monthly fiscal report through October 31st, 2024. We have at the podium, CFO Dave O'Toole. Recommendation is to receive a presentation and there's no action required.
The slide is up, so we'll get started. Good evening, Mr. Chair, directors, Fire Chief House, colleagues. Tonight's bi-monthly fiscal report covers the first 4 months of the fiscal year 24-25 through the end of October. This presentation, as it is every couple months, is provided to help you monitor the fiscal health of the district and spot any questions you may have about how we're doing. The reason the report goes only so far as October is because we don't have a meeting in December, so we hold this report over till January. And all that means is you'll get another bi-monthly fiscal report in February, and that will cover the period from July to December. So just a little heads up we have another one coming next month.
Thank you.
So turning to the charts, the first one, general fund cash balance trends as of the end of October. Shows you updated general fund cash through the end of that month. The red line is the current year, the green line is prior year. And you can see on the chart, it's following what we just consider the normal path for cash, where we do end up in about September, we start to borrow from the county for cash flow purposes. And then that cash gets replenished in the two sort of tranches from property taxes in January and April. So you can see where the spikes happen there. The trajectory, the cash was negative 12.6 million at the end of October, about $3.2 million higher than October 2023. So we did a little better than last year. That's at least partly due to year-over-year differences of when expenditures occur. The overall trend lines are the same, as I mentioned. And for the next slide, we'll go to revenues, starting with general fund revenues. Total revenues, as you can see, there's 3 lines here. Again, the red line is current year. That's how we're moving through the year. The green line is prior year, and then the blue line is budget. And all the way to the right, you can see that the budget total for total revenues, we expect to be almost 310 million, 309.4 million. The cash at the end of October was negative 12 point, I'm sorry. Wrong slide. The cash at the end of October was 23.2 million in actuals, and then prior year was 20.2. As indicated in the arrows, we're about 3 million more than last year. So next, we'll look at a component of general fund revenues, which is medic or EMS revenues. The medic revenues are tracking fairly close, but just below the blue line. Budget actuals on the red line were 15.5 million, approximately 800,000 less than last year. So you can see that our EMS revenues are coming in low after 4 months, and we'll want to take a closer look at that next month when we have a full half year of performance there. So that's it for medic revenues. Again, the total on the far right there in the blue at the end of the blue line is 50.4 million. That's what we're targeting for this fiscal year. For these next two slides, we sort of deviate, if you will, from general fund revenues over to PPG EMT revenues, the Public Provider Ground Emergency Medical Transport Program, which goes into the general fund. So I presented here as an update because it is basically, it becomes general fund almost as soon as we collect it. Almost. This income, let's see, the slide shows payments in the two prior fiscal years of the program. So this is actually the first 18 months of the program. You got fiscal year 22-23 and fiscal year 23-24. The far left bars on each slide, each chart is the gray column there, if you will, is about just under 1.7 million. That's how much we're expecting to get, or are expecting to get in each month. And so you can see the red bars are a little lower in every month there. But you add it all up, you see the bullets at the bottom there. So the amount outstanding is about 3 million over those 18 months, and the total collections were 28.5 million. So pretty substantial income contribution coming from PPG EMT right now. This next slide is just looking at the current year. So say it's still PPG EMT, and how are we doing in this fiscal year? Now, you can see I'm over delivering, I guess you could say. I have an extra month here. So I've included November because we already had that information. I thought I would and I've shared it separately. So I wanted to present it in this slide too. And you can see that if you look at the November month, it's only 182,000. So what's happening is these providers are paying their older debts first, just as you wouldn't want to incur the interest. And so we have less money the more recent the month, less collections the more recent the month. But even if you go back to July of 2024, the first red chart, the first red column there, it's almost 1.7. So they're catching up fairly quickly. There's just that sort of consistent shortfall that we need to close to capture the full, 6 million or so that is would be due today. So the amount outstanding here on this table in the bullet there is 3 million. If you add in the amount from the prior slide, which is also 3 million, you get 6 million total outstanding. The total collections for this fiscal year, 5.3 million so far through the end of November. The total collections that we budgeted is 20. So we have a little ways to go. And as you can see, there's a lag there. We expect to catch up, and we'll have more to report there at next month and at mid-year. So those are your two PPG EMT updates. Now we're switching from the revenue side to the expenditure side, and similar looking chart. The first 4 months are shown with the arrows there. The red line is actuals, green line is prior, and blue is budgeted. So we're actually about $3.2 million less than the blue line there. That's the gap there. So expenditures are $3.2 million under what we budgeted, and about $16 million higher than the prior year. Looking at a subset of general fund expenditures is labor costs. And again, tracking pretty closely with how we had it budgeted. At the end of October, actual labor costs were 89.6 million, about $8 million higher than last year's figure of 81.6, and pretty much right with budget, as you can see there, the blue line. Moving away from expenditures, but still with the general fund, reserve balances. This slide shows reserve balances for the first 4 months. Similar to the cash balance slide, the first chart we saw, there are 2 dips and 2 surges, which correspond with property tax income times of year. And the purple dotted line across the top there, that's the 15% reserve. So you can see how we get away from the reserve, we get surges of cash, and we spend it down, and we get back up. And by the end of the year, we expect to be under the reserve level of 15%. Target reserve level of 15%. Yep. The purple line is the target reserve level of 15%.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And the dollar amount there is about 41 million. You kind of see it all the way at the left. And now a slide on the CERT fund, the California Employers Retirement Benefit Trust Fund. This is where we set aside funding for the other post-employment benefits, basically mainly the health benefits for retirees. And you can see the balances of this trust fund have have gone up consistently until you get all the way to the right. You see there's a little dip there at the far right on the earnings side, on the green area, the earnings side. So there was about a $3 million dip in earnings and corresponding with the market at times, like a market shortfall. So we did dip a little bit on earnings. You can see we continue, as the blue line shows, we just continue to contribute every month to build up that, that trust fund. We had a little market dip there. The total, the total balance there is shown at the top, 93 million, almost 93.1 million. It's how much we put in our fund, with about 62 million of that in our contributions. So this next slide, I'm going to have Ron Empedred come up. If you recall, about a year ago, we introduced the fraud risk assessment, and that's something that Ron initiated, our controller, Ron Empedred, and he's going to present the quarterly update on the fraud risk assessment.
Good evening, directors, Chief House. My name is Ron Empedred. I'm the controller for the district, and I'm going to give you a status update for our fraud risk assessment recommendations. In the last report out, there were a total of 22 recommendations, of which 13 recommendations have been implemented. I'm happy to report this time around that we added one more to the implemented recommendations, bringing our total to 14. That recommendation is the creation of a consolidated accounting manual. An accounting manual is a key component in the effective management of any accounting operations. Now, while I'm saying that it's completed, our work is not yet done. Through the years, we're going to revise this document. Case in point, currently we are leveraging or trying out artificial intelligence as it applies to processing of vendor invoices. If that is a success, then we'll have to go again and revise our accounting manual to list out the procedures for this. But for our purposes, we can consider this recommendation as being completed. So as of today, we only have 7 recommendations in process, and I will keep updating the board on a quarterly basis regarding as we complete each of these recommendations. Thank you.
That brings us to our next to last slide. What I consider to be the major takeaways from this month's report, actual October 31, 2024 general fund cash was $3.2 million higher than the prior year. That's mainly due to spending being lower than budgeted so far. Overall general fund revenue coming in on budget, about 100,000 over, so very close to what we had, and 3.1 had in the budget, and then 3.1 million more than the prior year. PPG-MT revenues are growing and collection gaps are narrowing, about 3 million due for the first 2 years of the program, 22-23 and 23-24, and 3 million due this year. General fund expenditures were $3.2 million lower than what we had put in the final budget. And that is the major takeaways. And with that, this is a presentation item only, and take any questions you might have.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. Do we have any questions? Okay, we don't have any questions. Thank you, sir. With that, after the presentation item, I'd like to adjourn this meeting.